right, so we're checking in here. I've pretty much got the front deck from about here back. I've got it about as far as I'm gonna take it. You can see here I've boxed out for the storage compartments. There's one right here and one right there. So what's gonna happen is that box will sit in there just like so. So that makes a real nice little storage area. It's gonna be right here. Right here's where the seat pedestal is gonna sit. So I'm gonna open the door back this way. So you know, you can store tackle and whatnot in there. Nice little storage area. My closures are gonna actually be a piece of 1/16 inch angle that is gonna wrap around the angle part here, but the door is actually gonna go up over top. So it's kind of your unconventional dry storage, or a way to make storage. I'm gonna do the live wells the same way, but at the same time you end up with nice flush sides. You don't end up with that little lip or have to put a piece of rubber, you know, dirt and debris always ends up getting in that little lip, and then you've got that rubber piece there that always comes off. So that's my remedy for that. This one here, you can see that's gonna set in there like so. You remember whenever I cut the front of the boat, I left the front of the boat 2 inches high. And I did that because I wanted a little detail piece. You know, every boat that you see just comes straight out. It follows the gunnel line and it goes straight out. And I wanted to have myself a little detail, so I wanted this front deck here to be raised up from the rest of the boat. So I did that, and now you can see I've got to fill that gap with a rip. And so I'm gonna cut that rip and I'm gonna get it squared up, and then from that rip, then the boat floor is actually gonna come down to this line right here or somewhere in that area. So then I'll have to have an additional vertical piece to drop down to tie in to the horizontal plane that my floor is making. So that's what was left by raising the front deck of the boat 2 inches. So what I did was, that little extra detail, I've got 4-inch wide gunnels coming all the way on around this boat. So I took a 4-inch rip and I put it on an angle so where it's pretty aesthetically pleasing, because you end up seeing 4 inches of reveal basically all the way around the front of this boat. And then at the bottom of that will be a vertical piece that drops down into where the front deck will tie into the front of the boat. That'll be a flat vertical area. You guys see what I've been doing here? So the front deck area here it's all but ready to go. Everything's been welded in solid. All the live wells have been welded in. All the storage compartment areas have been made to dimension and welded. The big live well here has been welded 100% all the way around the top, as well as several points down low. So it's good and solid. All the plumbing, I've got all the plumbing in for the overflows and the drains on all the live wells. So now what I need to do is, now I'm going to start making my my lids basically for all the door latches, and I'm going to do that first so that way I can cut a true square for the door latch. Because you can see I've got there'll be a lid there, a lid there, a lid there, a lid there, one there, and then the big one right here. So there's going to be a whole bunch of little pieces. And so what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to cut in my door latches so they're perfect squares first. Even if they overlap the blocking just slightly, that's fine. As long as they're perfect squares, then I can piece in the little bits after the fact. And that way I'll end up with this whole deck space having good squares basically. So as far as my closure system, it's a little bit unconventional from what I've seen on a lot of marine stuff. Now traditionally, to be what they would consider, you know, true dry storage, you'll have either a raised section here with a right angle and then your little snap over that, or you'll have a lip that comes out here with a right angle and your door will fit in there. So a couple of reasons I don't like that is, especially on live wells, you end up with this ring that's protruding around the edge of your live well or storage box. So it really lessens the opening. So if I was to do it on this here, this is only like 14 by 18. So you can imagine if I'd have to come in 2 inches all the way around that, your opening is quite a bit smaller. Not only that, usually you have to end up with some sort of rubber gasket material on the top, and especially in a live well that sucks because mold grows there, number one. Number two, as you're dragging fish in and out, it always seems to come undone no matter how good you glue it. It's just a real pain. So this is my solution for this. So what I've got here is I've got a whole bunch of, this is 16th inch thick, 1 inch angle. So it's real thin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to cut it in. You can see how I've cut it in right there, and I've overlapped it. I'm going to cut this in all the way around the perimeter of each block out. So what's going to happen is this is going to actually work like that. This is going to be the hinge side of this particular live well, but on the outside everything's going to snap in and it's going to create a nice seal. So what it is water will now have to travel from here, and it'll have to travel all the way around and down. And after I get finished, if I take a slight bead of silicone and put underneath here, just so where that's a good snug fit, I should be able to keep all these storage boxes and live wells very, very dry. Your live well, you're not so much concerned with the water getting in as the water going out. If you're in rough water, running long distances and stuff, you don't want your water splashing out. And the other boxes, you don't want water getting in. Now, you guys have seen on my other latches, I'm using super heavy duty hinges. These are about 4 times the thickness of a normal hinge you'll see on a boat. So good super duty heavy hinges here. So what's going to happen on this, how I'm going to hinge the back side, is the angle piece will go on first, then the hinge, and then my lid piece will come in and it will sit on top. And what that will create is, this will create a nice flush run in between all the hinges. You won't have to have highs and lows. You can see how much of a clean look that it gives. I mean, as I said before, guys, these are big hinges that I'm using. These are kind of lifetime hinges. They're about, I'd say they're 3 to 4 times the size of the normal hinge that you see on a boat. So by using the 3/16 to 3/16 metal here on top of this big hinge, you can see the way I butted all these up. It's just a complete smooth surface. So this is the big live well here. This is the second hatch. It opens up, and I've got all the other ones done. So what I'm doing now is I'm getting to I'm filling in the last little piece here for the front deck. Before I get all this closed up, I figured I'd share with you kind of what I got going as far as layout and things of that nature. So anyway, what I've got here is I've got basically the back hatch compartment. I'm going to close it up and get it ready to go. So what I've got here is I've got to house 2 batteries back here. I've got to house 2 different electric pumps, as well as my battery disconnect and the manifold that's going to distribute the water to the live wells. Now I've got 3 live wells on this boat, and rather than running 3 different live well pumps, I'm going to pump the water into one main manifold, and then I can basically control which live well the water goes to. And so that way, if you know, like this live well here, if I want to use it for a cooler, I'm not pumping water into it. The big live well, if I use it for storage, you know, I don't want to have water pumping into it. So I'll be able to isolate where the water goes. I mean, it's kind of cool. I think it's a pretty good idea, you know, as opposed to having 3 separate live well pumps. So anyway, what I've got here is right here is where the pumps are going to be mounted. So they need to be kept in the dry and you know, out of a lot of vibration and stuff. So I've got this plate cut right here, and that's going to get set on top of there and welded in. And so that's going to give me a nice big flat place in the back to set stuff, because my driving seat's going to be right here. So the idea is that you know, I can mount a cooler back there. You know, I may put some angle iron you know, around to house a cooler, tie down, just, you know, a nice area back there. So like I said, I don't want any flat facing doors at all possible on this boat. So I need to access the pumps, so I've cut a door in for right there. Nice big tall door. These pumps, they all have reservoirs that if the fluid doesn't need changed, if I ever need to maintenance something, whatever. So I got a nice door goes in right there. Coming over here, this is where my 2 starting batteries are going to be. I'm going to weld plates in right there and tie those down once I get all my wiring and plumbing ran. So I've got a mount made up for my manifold. It's going to set right there, and then right in front of it is going to set the battery disconnect. So where with 2 starting batteries, I'll be able to isolate one battery whenever the big motor's not running, and that way I'll always have one battery that's fully charged. You know, on my other boat, I had a kicker motor that was wired into the batteries, and it had a pull start on it. So if ever I did run my battery dead, I could simply start the kicker motor and use the alternator on it like a generator. But since I'm not having a kicker motor on this boat, I want to be able to isolate the batteries, because you're not going to pull start that 200 horse. So I've got a nice door on there that I made up. It's where I can access the manifold and the battery disconnect. That is the well for the bilge pump that's going to be located in the floor of the boat. It's going to get a cap over it with a drain, and then the hose for that's going to get routed up and ran out. So I've got these nice angle plates here. This splash rail is 18 inches wide, so it's coming out of the back of the boat 18 inches, so I should never have a problem getting water up in here. I also pitched it. There's an inch of fall from right here to the top of that transom, so where any water that does get here will exit very quickly. So come over here to the rear live well. This is the rear live well. Got a nice door on that. So that's a nice, also flat area if you're not using it, but still real accessible. And then my control center is going to come out right here. That's the final thing I have to build. Like I said, I haven't turned the camera on much, just for fact of trying to get all this done. But you guys can see the progress I've made here. I'm getting real close to being done with all the fabrication. Like I said, I'm going to get all this stuff tacked in here, and then I'm going to wait till the very end to set this plate in. It's going to get set in, welded and welded. So I've got a lot of stuff coming through this plate here. This is where I'm going to, I've got 4 hydraulic lines that run the steering. I've got battery cables that come out for the motor. I've got cables to run the jack plate. I've got a lot of stuff that needs to exit for all these pumps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to access them right here on this vertical plane rather than the horizontal plane, and they're going to come out and over, and I'm going to get like a rubber boot flashing for a metal roof, so where I'll be able to just screw that flashing in, and it should be a very watertight fit, and it'll be mounted high enough that if water does come in to the splash rail or splash well, then it'll just shoot back out and it won't get into my control compartment there. So anyway, that's that.